Good evening, good evening, good evening. My name is Daphne Jack. I'm a member of the International Wrongful Conviction Day Committee, and I would like to welcome you to our Wrongful Conviction Day virtual event series. I'm super excited to be part of the International Wrongful Conviction Day Committee. A big shout out to my new family in Canada and whoever is in the US. I'm super excited to be a part of this team. I would like to thank the committee for supporting this event and allowing me to highlight some amazing and courageous people who were wrongfully convicted. And I want to start off by sharing that since 1989, over 3,220 wrongful convictions have been revealed across the nation. This issue doesn't just impact those who have been wrongfully incarcerated, but their loved ones and communities as well. This Wrongful Conviction Day commits to learning and sharing more about the issue. So we're proclaiming October the 2nd as Wrongful Conviction Day. With that being said, I would like to introduce our guests for this week. We'll be doing this every Monday night this week, and I'll be giving that announcement again. With that being said, again, I would like to introduce our guests. Our first guest, Mr. Anthony Graves, and I'm just going to share something about his story. Anthony Graves is 138 exonerated death row inmate in America with no record of violence. He was arrested at 26 years old, wrongfully convicted and incarcerated for 18 years before finally being exonerated and released. And I present to you my new brother from another mother, Mr. Anthony Graves. Welcome.
Wow. Thank you for the invitation, and thank
Absolutely.
you for the great introduction. And I just like to correct you on one thing.
Yeah, fix
18 and a half years, closer to 19.
Break it down, because you usually break it down in the seconds and everything. I want to hit a whole.
Yeah, it's 6,640 days of my life that I lost back there. Mm-hmm. And the reason why I tell you don't forget the half, because you said 18 years. But I always say don't forget the half, because they pay for that too.
Okay. I know that's the truth. You want all your money.
All of it. 18 and a half. Now this 18.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. But this is such a privilege, and I appreciate you for joining in, Mr. Graves. This has always been a day that I've dreamed of having you, because I've been following you. I'm a retired parole officer, and I started parole in 2005. And so once I started finding out that people were being wrongfully convicted who was on my case, I started investigating and researching. And the first name I came across was your name.
Wow.
And I said, oh my God, who is he? So I read I was like, oh my God, this is, so you have had the link for the application for them to fill out. I printed that application out, made copies. And when my guys would come in there and say, Ms. Jack, I was wrongfully convicted, I said, you see that application right there? Fill it out and go from there. And so this is a dream come true for me.
Well, I'm honored. Thank you, my sister. I'm definitely honored to be here and to share my story and my insight on all these things that leads to wrongful convictions.
Yes.
You know,
go ahead and dive into it.
Yeah, my wrongful conviction led me to a purpose greater than myself. I still work in the criminal justice system. I still work to make change so that we can have an equitable and fair system for all. Mm-hmm. So it just really gave me a purpose in life that I really didn't even see coming down the pipe, right? Just changed my whole life. And now I'm just dedicated to making sure that everyone has the best criminal justice system that we can have.
Absolutely. So go ahead and let's dive into your story. You were at the age of 26 and doing your thing in Brenham, Texas, correct? So tell me about that first day, that particular day that things started to change your life forever.
Tell you my $100 million story.
That's it. That's what I want to hear.
Okay. Well, let me just share. Back in 1992, a terrible, terrible crime had taken place in this small little town called Somerville, Texas, right? Which is about maybe an hour and a half away from Houston, Texas.
Mm-hmm.
An entire family was murdered,
Okay.
right? A family of six, four children, a teenage daughter,
Mm-hmm.
and a grandmother around 45 years old.
Wow.
They were shot, stabbed, bludgeoned to death. Gasoline was poured all over their bodies, and the house was burned down,
Wow.
right? So just imagine the outrage in this little city, this little town, because nothing like this had ever taken place before.
Mm-hmm.
So much so that the mayor of the small town came out the next day and said whoever had done that crime didn't even deserve a trial, that they should be caught and hanged. And that's kind of the way they pursued the case, because a week later they had the funeral, and a young man shows up and he has bandages on his body as though he'd been in a fire, right? He immediately became a person of interest to the Texas Rangers,
Yeah.
who is law enforcement here in Texas.
Mm-hmm.
He became a person of interest to them. So after the funeral, they approached this young man and asked if they could speak with him, and
Mm-hmm.
he agreed. And so they
Mm-hmm.
followed him home, and after he got home, they
Mm-hmm.
put him in the patrol car and they took him to the Department of Public Safety, where they interrogated this young man.
Mm-hmm.
They interrogated this young man for over 14 hours. Still today, don't nobody know all that he said, but at the end of it, they told him that they didn't think that he had done a crime by himself, and they don't really want him. They would let him go, but they just wanted him to call the name of somebody else that could have done the crime with him.
Mm-hmm.
Now,
Mm-hmm.
this young man who said that on the way to the DPS office, he thought he had seen a Jeep coming off the freeway onto the feeder. And in
Okay.
that Jeep, he thought he'd seen four young black men, and he thought one of them was me. So
Hmm.
when they asked him to call the name of someone else that could have done the crime with him, he said because he had thought he had just seen me in a Jeep, he called my name. So they wanted a story. So he gave them like 7 or 8 different stories until one fit their theory, and then they turned around and arrested the young man,
Mm-hmm.
right? Charged him with capital murder.
Wow.
Hours later, there's a knock on my door. Now I don't know the young man other than he's married to a cousin of mine, but I don't know him, right?
Mm-hmm.
So a knock came at my door, and it was my neighbor, Mike, and Mike was asking me, "Hey man," telling me that the police was looking for me, and they had just asked him if that was my car parked out there.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, "Well, what the police looking for me for?" He said, "I don't know, man. They just asked about your car." So I said, "All right, thank you." So I thought, well, if the police looking for me, then they have gone to my auntie's home, because I go to my aunt's every day. So I
Mm-hmm.
pick up the phone and I call my aunt and I asked her, "Hey, Mike just told me the police looking for me. Had they been down at your house?"
Mm-hmm.
She said, "No. Why would the police be looking for you?" I said,
Yeah.
"I don't know, but Mike just said that." And she said, "Well, call the police, right, and find out." So I said, "Okay." And I hung up and I thought better of it. I said, "Well, instead of me calling the police, this is my naivete, because
Mm-hmm.
I'm innocent. Instead of me calling the police, I'm gonna go look for the police,
Right.
right?"
Right. Right.
So I come out my apartment, my mother's apartment, go downstairs to go look for the police. I want to know why they're looking for me.
Right.
Right when I get downstairs, the police pulls up and I stop. Police gets out of his vehicle and he asked me who I was, and I told him who I was. So he
Mm-hmm.
wanted some ID. I give him my ID, and he noticed that I'm not nervous or anything, so I could tell he a little perplexed, right? So he said to me, he said, "Man, I've been told to come pick you up and take you downtown because some officers are down there want to talk to you." I said, "Can you tell me why?"
Mm-hmm.
And he said, "No, but when you get down there, the officers will fill you in." Okay. So my neighbor comes outside, Mike, and I'm telling Mike, "Hey, Mike, this officer said I have to go to the police station for something, but my mother is on the way home. Can't you let her know?" Right? In my mind, I'm thinking I just tell her I should be right back because I haven't done nothing wrong.
Right.
At worst, maybe I got a traffic ticket that I forgot, but I haven't got no traffic ticket in years, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know what is going on, but I'm gonna comply, right? I ain't done nothing wrong. So he handcuffed me, put me in a patrol car, and we're going to the police station.
So
By
you
the
have
time we get
handcuffed
Yeah,
still,
he handcuffed me. He handcuffed me at that point, put me in the patrol car, and takes me downtown to the police station.
but you wasn't arrested. Did he say you
No,
were arrested?
no. He just told me that I had to go to the police station. They wanted to talk to me about something.
But
right?
still with handcuffs. Okay.
With handcuffs.
Mm-hmm.
So he handcuffed me. We get down to the station. When we
Mm-hmm.
get down to the station, they take me into the booking room, ask me to take everything out of my pockets and to have a seat. And I do that. And I'm sitting there in the booking room, and I see officers just walking in. I'm just sitting there, nobody talking to me.
Mm-hmm.
Officer walking in and out, walking in and out. So finally, I started asking the officer, hey, can somebody tell me why I'm here? You know, because this is a Sunday. I'm ready to go. I don't want to be in no police station.
Mm-hmm.
But nobody's talking to me. So they finally say, hey, well, someone to come in and talk to you. By this time, Texas Ranger came in with a magistrate. 4 Texas Ranger, 1 magistrate. Everybody white. I just like to tell the story how it is. I want to paint the real picture. Everybody white.
Mm-hmm.
So they asked me to stand up. I do, and they started reading me my rights. I have a right to remain silent and all that. I don't know where this is going. I'm thinking all of this for a ticket, right? Okay. And then he says, you have been charged with capital murder. Capital murder? Me? Yeah. You and you know, this is I'm very confused. I'm thinking a traffic ticket, you talking about capital murder. And I'm at who I like who got murdered? And they like, well, you want to talk to us? Yeah, I want to talk to you, right? I don't have nothing to hide. So they take me into an interrogation room and they interrogate me from 11 a.m. that morning till 3 a.m. the next night, trying to get me to say that I did something I didn't do. Finally, after that, the Texas Ranger stood in front of me, and he said to me, you know, Mr. Graves, I don't believe you did this. But if you don't put everything on Mr. Carter, we're going to put this all on you. And if you are actually innocent, then don't let no grass grow in your grave. And told the officer to get me out of there. At that point, they're taking me to another police station. They've had me all night and all morning. So 3 o'clock in the morning, we're driving 100 miles an hour to another town, right? Town I don't know nothing about, never been to. I'm just at their I'm at their mercy right now. They get me to this another town about 3:30, 4 in the morning. And I'm asking, hey, man, can I call my mom? Because I know she's worried. Finally, they let me call my mom about 4 or 5 that morning. I called her, and like I knew she was up, worried about me because she hadn't heard from me all day.
Mm-hmm.
And then we're talking, and I'm telling her what they've done to me, what they've charged me with, da 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 da. And she don't. I mean, she don't know no more than I know, right? We don't know the people, nothing.
Mm-hmm.
I ended up spending 2.5 years in jail waiting on trial because I want to go to trial. I'm begging them to take me to trial because in my mind, I get to trial, the truth come out, I can go home. I ended up spending 2.5 years begging these folks to take me to trial.
2.5 years.
2.5
I
years.
heard the story, but to hear it again and it's quiet and I can really hear you. 2.5 years.
And no bond. No bond. Now I had a bond hearing 3 weeks after I was in jail. We get to the bond hearing, and my attorney tells me before the bond hearing starts, I just want to prepare you because they're not going to give you a bond. Right? Just dashing my hopes. And I'm like, man, I ain't done nothing. Why the hell they going to keep me in jail? Right?
Mm-hmm.
And he said, the reason why they're not going to give you a bond, this is an election year. And no judge wants to read in the papers, judge let suspected murderer go. So they're not going to give you a bond, but we need to have this hearing to put it on record, right?
Wow.
We get into the hearing, and we get the lead Texas Ranger, the head Texas Ranger on the witness stand. And my attorney asked him, is there anything that you have, this is verbatim, is there anything in this case that you have that links my client to it?
Mm-hmm.
The Texas Ranger sit up there on the witness stand and said, no, sir, there's nothing that we have in this case that links your client to it. They turned around and denied me bond. And I sat in jail 2.5. Even though they sit there in court and said there was nothing that they had in this case that tied me to it, I was still denied bond, and I sat there 2.5 years while they tried to manufacture a case. Eventually, I got to trial, and the jury was 11 whites and 1 black, jury of my peers, right? And they made the black guy the foreman of the jury. And I knew they was going to do that because when my attorney asked me, he said, well, I'm going to go in the jury room and see who's going to be the foreman. I said, man, it's going to be the black dude. He said, why you say that? Said, man, it's going to be black. I was just exhausted. I was just speaking. Now I'm just speaking truth, right? I said, man, it's going to be the black dude.
Wow.
So he goes into the room.
Mm-hmm.
5 minutes later, he comes back out. And he comes up to me like, How did you know it's going to be the black guy? I said, man, because they're going to put him as the face of the jury. They're finna convict me before they even hear this case, right? And they're going to make him the face of the jury. This has been played out many times in our history. I say, ask yourself this. How many times have you seen 11 white people willing to follow one black man unless he knew where he was going, unless they all knew where they were going? They took his vote from him before he was even able to cast it. He could not be the only person voting not guilty. So he was caught up where his vote, he was going to be more critical of me than anyone, because he could not say not guilty and everybody else saying guilty, because they're going to feel like it's a black thing. So he is my worst juror. And just like I thought, he came and found me guilty without any evidence. And he was sitting there crying, finding an innocent man guilty without any evidence.
Wow.
So at that point, I'm exhausted because I've been in jail 2.5 years. I'm waiting on trial, finally get to trial. And now I'm wrongfully convicted. And now we have to go through the punishment phase where they're going to decide whether I live or die. I haven't done nothing wrong to anyone. I'm not a criminal. But 12 people who don't know me is now going to decide whether I live or die for something I did not do. Okay.
Wow.
So my mom and my sister and my son gets up and testify on my behalf about my character, who I am to them, who I am to the family. All of that fell on deaf ears, and they went back there into the jury room, and 2.5 hours later, they came back and sentenced me to death with absolutely no evidence. So my attorney says to me, I want to go and pool the jury and ask them what was it that led them to convict me. So he went and talked to the juror, and the juror says to him, there was no evidence in the case that led to our decision to convict him.
Right.
You were boring. And we felt like if we convicted him, he would get new attorneys and he could get a new trial. This was the mindset of my jury. This is why it's so important that when we sit a jury, we need to educate them on what their role really is. Because my jury was naive to believe that they could convince me they can convict me because my attorneys were boring. They said there was no evidence that led them to decide that I was guilty. It was because my attorneys were boring, and they felt like if they convicted me, I would get new attorneys and I could get a new trial.
Stop right there.
That was the worst for my jurors.
So I know you've been on my podcast, If Emily Was Alive Today podcast. Apparently, I was not paying no attention to that interview because it's like I'm hearing this. I know it's on the podcast, but it's like I'm hearing this and didn't listen to my podcast. So I'm just kind of blown away with how all of this, because the attorney was boring.
Yes.
And I'm sure everybody who's looking at my face, because I can throw some ugly faces here, and I'm surprised my daughter haven't ran in, Mama, fix your face, smile or something. But this is a lot. So
I was wrongfully convicted because my attorneys were boring.
Okay, go ahead. Tell the rest.
And I lost 18.5 years of my life with that. But nevertheless, because they convicted me because my attorneys were boring. Two of the juries come out and said, I never believed that he was guilty, but his attorneys were boring. So we felt like if we convicted him, he would get new attorneys, he could get a new trial. Right? That's just why I tell lawyers when I go around and speak, I tell lawyers, judges, anyone that will listen, please, people, we're getting 12 people off the street to come and sit into the jury box and make the most important decision on a young man or woman's life. And they know absolutely nothing about the law. They have to be educated once we sit them in that jury. We need to spend a day with them, making sure that they understand the laws that are going to be applied to this case and what their role really is. If we get educated jurors, we can also reduce the number of wrongful convictions.
Yeah.
But we do not want educated jurors. Educated jurors make the most intelligent decisions, and that also will reduce wrongful convictions. So what they do is they give you they test you. They ask you a bunch of questions to see where you are. And if you are one who is intelligent, can think for yourself, they do not want you on the jury.
Wow.
Okay. They want you to be a follower. They want you to believe in the law to the point where when the law come in and say he's guilty, that you're gonna convict him, right?
Wow.
So they run you through this system where they find out who you are first before they sit you on a jury. Because in order to sit on a capital jury, you have to believe in the death penalty.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, you have to be able to give somebody the death penalty. Right? If you say, well, I can follow the law, but I can't sentence someone to death, then you're not qualified to be on the jury.
Mm-hmm.
They want a qualified jury, so it's rigged already. That if you convicted, they're already saying they can sentence you to death. So it's already rigged. You got a death qualifying jury that you got to go stand in front of, and that's going to already sentence you to death once they convict you.
Mm-hmm.
So it's all set up. I ended up being wrongfully convicted, and I spent about 12 and a half years on death row. 18 and a half total that I spent, but 2.5 was waiting on trial. I spent 12 and a half on death row, and then I spent another 4 after my case was overturned. But we'll get to that. So when I'm on death row,
Mm-hmm.
I go to death row, and you know, I hear the stories that everybody else hear, that these are some bad men, the worst of the worst, right? And you know, and I'm going down there, and I ain't done nothing. I'm not no criminal, and I got to go live amongst all these bad people, right? I'm scared. I'm just gonna be honest. I'm 26 years old,
Mm-hmm.
so I'm scared. So when I get down there, my first week, I don't talk to nobody. I'm just standing in my cell. I got my headphones on. I don't want to talk to nobody. And people are hollering, "Hey, 10 cell." But I don't. You don't know me. I'm innocent. I don't need to be down here.
Mm-hmm.
But finally, I start opening up, and one guy reached out to me and said, "Hey, come out on the rec yard." And I go on the rec yard, and come to find out that these are people who just made a mistake, may not have made a mistake, but we all down here, and we all under a sentence of death. And now, without any of the mitigating factors, the drugs and guns and all, just have people here who made a mistake for their life, but they're good people now,
Mm-hmm.
right? Trying to do whatever they can to rectify their wrong,
Absolutely.
reaching out to families, all of this stuff. I witnessed this here, but
Mm-hmm.
we were still killing them one by one. I witnessed 403 men getting executed around me while I was there. I witnessed men who were mentally ill. I witnessed men who were innocent. I witnessed a lot of men who were guilty. They were all in the same fate. Sometimes twice a day, we would execute someone. Twice a day. We would execute someone at 12 o'clock, wipe off the gurney, and come back and execute another person at 6 o'clock. I mean, we was just so, this country is just so bloodthirsty that we can't wait to kill our own. And we call it the death penalty, and we justify it.
Mm-hmm.
We justify killing our own for what they may or may not have done. Because I witnessed a lot of guys who was going to their death, to their gurney saying, "Man, I didn't do this. I didn't do this." Those were their last words, and they were still being executed. All right. So I witnessed that for 12 and a half years. And finally, an officer came to my cell and threw a note in it on. I can't remember the date. It was in March the 3rd of 2006. She throws a note in my cell, and I asked her, "What's this note for?" She said, "Read it. Another inmate sent it to you." So I got it. You know, I read it, and it says, "Hey, congratulations, man. I just heard that your case had been overturned on the radio. I'll see you in the free world." Well, he's since been executed, but this was the night my case was overturned. And so, you know, at that point, man, I'm excited, but everybody around me has the death penalty. Everybody around me has a death sentence. Everybody around me is probably going to get executed. So I couldn't celebrate. I couldn't shout. All right? So I had to go and just lay on my bunk and just let my tears flow and pump my fist and thank God. Finally, after 18 and a half years. Well, at that time, it was 14.
Okay. Okay.
So 14 and a half. So now the Fifth Circuit Court of Criminal Appeals had ruled in my favor. A unanimous decision, 3-0 vote, ruled in my favor, citing prosecutorial misconduct.
Wow.
Saying, and they don't do that. They never go against the prosecutor. Cited prosecutorial misconduct, basically saying that had y'all not lied, cheated, stole, and robbed this man of his freedom, he would not have been here, right? And y'all either change this, redo it, or
Mhm.
let him go. So this
Question.
was in, yes, ma'am.
So, so, so you got the overturn, but tell me, where did it all begin to start the process of you getting that overturn and being set free? How
Well,
did it get started?
anytime there's a capital conviction, you get an automatic appeal, right?
Okay.
And then they here in Texas, they assign you an appeal attorney.
Okay.
Okay, so we're going through the whole appeal process, right? While I'm down there, I my first appeal attorney I never met, right? She's my direct appeal attorney. I hate to call Miss Virgin Mouton name, but she was my first.
Who said that
She was
one name?
she was my first attorney that never came to visit me, but wrote my brief to save my life.
Uh-huh.
Never came to visit me. Then after that was denied, I got another appeal attorney for my state habeas appeal, which is the most important appeal throughout
Mhm.
the whole process, because
Okay.
this is where you get to put everything into the
Mhm.
appeal, right? That was outside of the record and all, right?
Mhm.
So it's called your state habeas appeal.
Mhm.
Well, when we filed it, they gave me an attorney who hadn't been an attorney for 3 years,
Mhm.
right? Uh, and I wrote about it in my book. He knows I'm not gonna call Pat McCann's name. Uh, and so when he gets down there, well, he's young and immature as well on with the law, right?
Okay.
So when they didn't eventually denied my state habeas, right?
Okay.
Uh, saying basically that I had a lawyer with a pulse, so you know, everything is good.
Mhm.
No misconduct, no negligence, nothing. Everything's good because my lawyer had a law license and a pulse. It
Mhm.
didn't matter that he didn't have that much experience. He had a
Mhm.
law license and a pulse, and we don't have to provide you with an attorney. We're doing that as a courtesy. That
Mhm.
is the state of Texas position on that when
Mhm.
you're on your habeas. So
Okay.
now I'm going through my habeas appeal process, right? But during this time, there is uh, uh, a momentum gathering around my case and the fact that I'm actually innocent. People are starting to find out about my case because uh, I have pen pals and they're starting to let it be known, and journalists are starting to come down there and speak with me.
Mhm.
So now my case is getting out there.
Mhm.
And being that my case has been out there, this journalist who came visiting me decided that she was going to reach out to the Innocent Project and
Okay.
let them know about my case, right?
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
she was a freelance journalist.
Okay.
So the story I heard was that this after she had visited me and did some research, she reached out to the Innocent Project at the University of Houston and told them, "Hey, I have a case that I'm very concerned about. I think you guys need to look into, right?"
Mhm. Mhm.
Okay. So they have this class one day where they're talking about the death penalty. They're teaching it on death penalty, and this journalism professor and her students were also there, the team, and they're talking about my case now on this
Mhm.
particular day, and they're
Mhm.
talking about how I'm on the fast track to execution, but my case has never been investigated, and all of this. It has a lot of work needs to be done on it, and who would like to look into it? So the journalist professor and her students who were there, she says they looked around and nobody was raising their hand. So they all raised their hand together because they wanted to look into the case, right?
Mhm.
Not they didn't know if I was innocent or not. They just it hadn't been any work done on the case, so they wanted to look into the case. Well,
Mhm.
that became my saving grace,
Right.
right? Because this lady turned out to be Nicole Caceres. And
Mhm.
Nicole Caceres is the lady that eventually saved my life because she
Mhm.
did all the work, right?
Okay.
Uh, and so after Nicole got on my case,
Mhm.
we were able to bring in another attorney, Jeff Blackburn, who recently passed away, God rest his soul.
Mhm.
And they really just started digging in my case. And what had happened is they realized that was never an investigation. And they started unearthing all this information that was pointing toward my innocence,
Mhm.
right? And they did this for 2 years, right? Before they even came and visited me. I didn't even know that they were investigating my case.
Mhm.
So at this point, the Nicole Caceres, the journalist professor, and her students 2 years later come to visit with me, and when I get out there, she asked me as they came to visit, she said, Mr. Graves, is there anything you like to tell us about your case first? And I
Mm-hmm.
said, yes, ma'am. I like to just say that I'm not going to sit out here and try to convince you guys that I'm innocent. If you do the work, you'll find out that I'm innocent. But I
Mm-hmm.
do not want to get caught up in the telling you that I'm innocent so where you can say, yeah, that's what they all say. I say, I don't do that one. So I'm
Mm-hmm.
not going to sit out here and try to convince you I'm
Right.
innocent. If you're
Right.
going to help me, I just ask you to investigate the case.
Mm-hmm.
And to my surprise, she came back and said, well, Mr. Graves, we had already done that. And just so you know, we already believe in your innocence. Well,
Wow.
that was such a relief for me because,
Wow.
they have this old saying that, yeah, everybody says that they're innocent, which is not true,
No, it's not
right?
true.
But that's the way that politicians have narrated this story so
Mm-hmm.
that people can be turned off on innocent people,
Mm-hmm.
right? And say, oh, yeah, they all say that. No, they do not. When
Mm-hmm.
they're saying that, mean that's the reason why they're saying that.
Yeah, it has to be a
Okay,
reason.
trust me.
Mm-hmm.
Even if they're part of the crime they got convicted of, they're saying that the conviction does not fit what they done,
Exactly.
right? So
Exactly.
that means I'm innocent of this, even though I may have been guilty of something else.
Mm-hmm.
So so all of that happens and comes into play, and that's
So,
politics of it all.
so let me ask you this. So how long had you been in prison when this process started? How long
So
had you?
I'd been in prison about 14 years.
Okay. Okay.
Well, yeah, about no, let's say about 10 years at that time
10 years.
when I
Okay.
meet Nicole.
Right.
Okay, because she worked with me for 8 years. So
Okay.
about 2010, when the worm started turning,
Mm,
well, when I started getting people involved in my case that believed
yes.
in me,
Yes.
and that started going out and unearthing the truth,
Mm,
right? So
mm,
that started in 2010, but I mean, 2000, take that back, 2005, and it translated all the way up to 2010.
mm-hmm,
So
mm-hmm,
in 2005, people started coming on board and believing in my innocence and
mm,
really put in the work. I started an organization over in Europe called Join Hands for Justice while I was on death row. And
mm.
I got people from France and people from Germany, and people from Switzerland, people from Sweden, and people from Norway, and people from China, and people from Italy, all involved. They all came together to join hands in justice for me.
Mm.
And they made this loud noise overseas that resonated over here.
Wow.
And that's what started it all.
Wow.
So my extended family is Europe. Is
Mm-hmm.
Europe. I can't thank them enough. I
Yeah.
mean, they really helped save my life. I
Mm-hmm.
am so indebted to Europe because they wrote me letters. They came to visit me. They kept my spirits up. They helped me get an attorney.
Mm-hmm.
They made the noise overseas that resonated over here, and they saved my life.
Wow.
So and when my case was overturned, right, I ended up going back to the local county jail because they decided that instead of just releasing me, they're gonna retry the case anyway, right? Even though the Fifth Circuit had already said that the testimony that Mr. Carter had was perjured testimony, but the judge made a decision that she was gonna let it be used again because this judge who was on my case when I'm going back is the daughter of the judge that sentenced me to death, and
Oh,
she don't want to get off the case. She wants to
that
read.
in the family.
She wants to finish what her daddy started, right? So we go through this thing where I stay in jail 4 more years, 4 years and 3 more months,
You stay in
waiting on a trial.
jail again?
And behind double steel doors, they was trying to break my will to live. They had me in solitary confinement by myself in a whole jail. Didn't want nobody to talk to me or nothing. I did this for 4 years and 3 more months before I was finally exonerated. They was trying to get me to plea. They was asking me, would I take a life sentence? No. What would I take? And they said that if they would give me time served, would I just would plead guilty? And I said no. I said, look, if that's the deal, then they're gonna be feeding me in my cell tonight. They're gonna free me or they're gonna kill me. I'm not gonna compromise the truth. That's just it, right? And that's why I stayed 4 more years and 3 months. Okay, but October 27, 2010, while I'm behind steel double doors, the officer come and he raises up the flap because I can't see, right? They have to raise up a flap and look in on me. And he said, hey, man, put your shirt on and come go with me. And I'm like, well, where are we going? Because I'm hungry, right? I'm thinking they're finna feed me. But he's saying, come go with him. And so this day, I put my shirt on. They open up the steel double doors and he's taking me down the hallway. But I don't want to go with him without my attorney. He's law enforcement, right? I'm thinking, okay, well then what you gonna try to create a scene where it looks like I tried to escape? You kill me, nobody's gonna say nothing
Mm-hmm.
because he's supposed to be this murderer, right? So
Mm-hmm.
I'm telling him, man, I'm not going nowhere with you without my attorney. So since in my paranoia, by the time we got to the front, he opened up the door and I see my attorneys there, which was cool. When I get in there, my attorney, it's two of them there, and it's Nicole because she had become my attorney now, along with a guy named Jimmy Phillips Jr. And I see Nicole stands up and she's just batting back her tears, and I'm thinking in my mind, man, it's just more bad news, but I don't care. I got my shield in one hand and my sword in the other. You
Mm-hmm.
gonna kill me or you gonna free me? That's not gonna be a compromise.
Right.
So Nicole stands up and she looks at me and she says to me, Anthony, you remember when you told me that God was good?
Mm-hmm.
And I said, yeah, but I'm not thinking about nothing about God. I'm hungry. What we doing here, right?
Mm-hmm.
And she says to me, well, I just want you to know that God is good, Anthony, because today the state has dismissed the charges against you, right?
Wow.
And they didn't dismiss the charges because witnesses have died. They didn't dismiss the charges because evidence has been lost. They're dismissing the charges because they believe in your innocence. And I was like, I wasn't prepared for that, right? I went in with my shield and my sword. So this is going over my head. So I
Mm-hmm.
had to stop for a minute, right? And hold on, wait a minute. What did you just say?
Right.
And she was like, it's over with, right? They
Wow.
didn't dismiss the charges. And Kelly have a meeting, a press conference tomorrow to let the whole world know, right? And so I'm asking her, so what do I do now? Right? Because I've been in the building 18 and a half years. And she said, well, let's put your clothes on and let's get out of here because she had brought me clothes. By
Wow.
this time, the officer walks back into the area because he knew already. I just didn't know. The
Mm-hmm.
one that was walking me up, he knew. And
Mm-hmm.
so he came in, he said, Mr. Gray, you want to go get your property, right? And I said, yeah, let me go get my property. But I didn't want to get my property. I didn't know what I wanted to do. I was just so discombobulated because I
Yeah.
had dreamed this here
Yeah.
for 6,640 nights. And now here it is. This seems so real to me. But it can still be a dream, right? I dreamed it so much. So
Mm-hmm.
it's like, all right, let's go get my stuff. But I don't want to get nothing. I'm just discombobulated. So by the time we're walking down the hallway, it just kind of dawned on me, right? It's over with, man.
It's
It's
over.
over with. And so by the time we get to the cell, he said, Mr. Graves, what do you want out of that? And I said, man, I don't want nothing. Let's just go before y'all change y'all mind, right?
It's off running
So
almost.
so he was like, you want to get your paper, your pictures and all that? I said, yeah, just get my legal stuff and my pictures, but that's it. So we
Mm.
take my legal work and my pictures and we put them in a little old small box. And after 18 and a half years, I walk out the side of the jail. Everything I own as a 45-year-old man. Remember, I was 26.
26 when it
I'm
all.
45 that day. And I'm
Wow.
walking out the side of the jail with everything I own in a little old small box at the age of 45 years old. Walking into new beginnings, right? So by this time, the 48 Hours is there doing a documentary on me. They're
Mm.
filming my story. Somebody gave them a tip. So when I walk out, the Richard Schlesinger, the host, is there, and he asked me with a mic in my face, so how you feel, man? How you feel? And, I feel good, man. It's the first time in 18 and a half years that I've had the sunshine of freedom on my face, all right? I feel real good.
Mm-hmm.
Just like, do your mom know, right? Nobody knew because they just made that decision. So my attorney, Nicole, was there. And Nicole said, well, nobody knows, right? They was like, well, call your mother. But at this time, they handed me a cell phone that I don't know how to use. I've been
Been
incarcerated
locked
18 and a half years. When I went in jail, you had the big old phone that you plug into the
up. Right.
car
Uh-huh. The
and use that
Motorola.
big, yeah, yeah. And
Uh-huh.
now here it is, this little old bitty phone, and it's saying, call your
Uh-huh.
mom. And I'm like, I don't know how to use that. So Nicole said, well, I have a number. And she called her. And now, when I was in the jail, I would call my mom every day and we would talk about different stuff. And I always asked her what she cooking and she would tell me. And I
Wow.
would tell her, don't tell me. And she said, well, you asked. I said, yeah, I just want to know, but I don't want you to tell me. I'm eating bad food, right? So she like, well, next time I won't tell you. I said, okay. So this particular day when I'm being released, she don't know. And so when they asked me to call my mom, I don't have the number. So my attorney, Nicole, says, I can call her. I have a number.
Mm-hmm.
And she takes out her phone. It was a BlackBerry at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And she takes out the BlackBerry and she dials my mother's number. And I can hear my mom asking, "Hello." And Nicole said, "Miss Curry, I got somebody here you want to talk to." Now my mom is not used to somebody handing me the phone. I'm in jail, right?
Right. Right.
And so when she hands me the phone, I said, "Mama." She said, "Who is this?" I said, "This is your son. Uh, I'm on my way home, and I did not escape."
Wow.
Right? And she didn't believe it, right? And she just lost her mind after as she realized who she was talking to. And
Wow.
she just dropped the phone and started screaming.
Mm.
20 minutes later, I ended up in front of my mom's house for the first time in 18 and a half years, you
Mm.
know, hugging my mom for the first time and just listening to the wails of her cry from the depths of her soul because it's the first time in 18 and a half years she's been able to hug her oldest child, you
Mm-hmm.
know.
Mm-hmm.
So I went through 18 and a half years of all of that. And when I was exonerated, what I did is there was a law that I could use now to file a grievance against the prosecutor that disbarred me. And I like to always let people know that I used that law and it worked. And I ended up disbarring the prosecutor that wrongfully convicted me.
Wow.
Now, what does that say? That says that you don't have to always take the law in your hand. You can use the law.
Mm-hmm.
Okay?
Yeah,
Use
yeah.
the law for the same reason, same purpose they use it against you. I did that. I used the law to disbar a prosecutor who could never harm another person like this again.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And after that, I've written my book. I'm a published book author now.
Yeah.
Infinite Hope is the title of my book.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, I travel around the country sharing my story. I'm now the director at the Harris County Public Defender's Office. I'm the director of community outreach.
Mm-hmm.
I do things called, I created a project called the Peer Navigators Project where I have hired formerly incarcerated men and trained them on how to work alongside criminal defense attorneys to go and mentor their clients as
Mm-hmm.
well as the family members through the whole process,
Mm-hmm.
right? And then I also do what is called participatory defense. It's where I'm trying to empower the community to get involved to
Yeah.
support their loved ones through
Mm-hmm.
the incarceration, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So what this wrongful conviction have done for me is given me conviction
Mm-hmm.
around the work that I do,
Right.
around my purpose that I live,
Mm-hmm.
and I've turned this lemon. I made this lemon and I squeeze it, and I got lemonade today.
Yes. Yes.
And my life is great. I travel the world. I do amazing work. I'm changing lives. I'm giving hope. You know,
Yes.
it's from a wrongful conviction. All
Mm-hmm.
right. So I am. Thank you for letting me share my story
Oh,
with you guys.
absolutely, absolutely, and I appreciate you accepting this invitation, accepting this invitation. But I want to ask, and we're slowly going to a close here. Tell me briefly about your mental health. How was your mental health affected? What did this do to you?
Well, it's I mean, I can only speak for me because I always feel like I'm the exception, not the rule. And I never had really no mental challenges that I
Okay,
had to deal with. And and
okay.
and, and I think that comes from my naivete, is that knowing that I was innocent.
Mm,
I was rebellious in nature. I was refusing to give away something that you couldn't take.
yeah.
And my mental health was something you couldn't take. And I was refusing in a rebellious way to give that to you because you was already wrong to
Yes.
take
Yes.
my freedom. I wasn't going to give you anything else that you couldn't take. So it
Hmm.
was never anything mental for me. But
Okay.
here's the thing, what people don't talk about is
Hmm.
there are a lot of health issues that you have to deal with because you don't have the best health care back there. And
Hmm.
you are living under abnormal circumstances and in an
Hmm.
abnormal situation. You don't
Hmm.
get direct sunlight all the time. You get bad food, right? And then over time, it affects your health. I've been out 12 years. I've had two major surgeries around cancer.
Wow.
That comes from the living conditions on death row and
Mm,
in prison. A lot of people don't talk about it, but most men come home end up with a lot of health issues from those conditions down there, and
mhm.
it's not being addressed. That is one of the biggest issues down there not being addressed. Your health, your health. I've had health issues, not mental issues. I've had
Mhm.
physical health issues
Yeah.
because of the conditions, you
Wow.
know. Yes, ma'am. So
Wow.
that is something that needs to be addressed.
Yeah, yeah, and we're going to continue to push forward and still, trying to be that catalyst for change, an agent of change, and
Yes.
yet still trying to turn the system around because we have still so much going on. Now, don't get me wrong, we've come a long ways, but we're still not there yet. And
Yeah, yeah.
and so because these things are still happening as we speak, someone is sitting in the prison now who has been wrongfully convicted.
Yeah, we come, when you say we come a long way, we come 1,000 miles, but it's a 10,000 mile journey.
See, so we got
We got
nine.
a long way to still go.
Yeah, 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 yeah. That is so true. So again, I appreciate this opportunity. I'm so humbly grateful to have you, and I want to thank you publicly for selecting me to be part of the participatory defense.
Oh, you're amazing. You are just an amazing person.
When I got the email, I was like, "What? Really?" And so they said you were highly recommended by Anthony Graves. I said, "That
Yes.
joker." I said, "Wow."
Yes,
we
ma'am.
stopped. We stopped doing that at You'll be at the office till 5.
Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
I got the real Anthony Graves now. But
Yes, ma'am.
I appreciate you again for tuning in. This is on Facebook Live, and we'll be doing this same interview for the next 4 Mondays. And we have some really amazing guests coming up. So if you could tune in again, it'll be I can send you on the it's even on YouTube. So you can actually
Okay.
watch this over again and share it. And next week we have Anna Vasquez, and we'll be listening to her story and what she went through. And this day again, and if you notice the background, I have the wrongful conviction day color is yellow. And so this is the color I'm gonna be sporting all month long, although we set aside this day, but to me, each day is going to count. And we are hoping to have a surprise guest. It just blew my mind. So we're working on that. So we might have another show, but it would be later on this month. And it probably won't be on a Monday because all the Mondays are booked. But again, tune in, everyone, for the Wrongful Conviction Day virtual event series that we are hoping this will be the opportunity to do this every in the month of October. And so and I want to do a shout out to State Rep Ron Reynolds. We were responsible within our International Wrongful Conviction Day Committee to get someone, the legislative people, to sign proclamations or send me proclamations. And so I reached out to quite a few, but he always come through for me. So I wanted to give a shout out to him. And Anthony, again, I just appreciate you for taking time out. And I'm gonna be honest, I did get you at the last minute and you came on in here anyway. So you're a real brother.
I did it. I did it for you.
You sure did.
So saying that, I want to tell your audience that we have a project called the Peer Navigators Project. You can go to peernavigatorproject.org. If you have a loved one or you know someone that need to be mentored through this criminal justice system, I have peer mentors. And what they do is they go and they mentor clients and their family members to make sure that they understand that everything that they're going through and that they can make the best decisions for themselves. So if you know anyone that needs our assistance, please reach out. Just go to peernavigatorsproject.org.
Okay, so give that one more time. Your contact information. How can we reach you?
Yes, peernavigatorproject.org.
Okay.
Peernavigatorproject.org.
Okay.
And reach out to us.
Good. So this is being recorded. So anybody need to go back and hear this again or whatever the case may be. And again, we're commemorating October the 2nd, Wrongful Conviction Day. And Anthony, I appreciate you so much. You are like the best brother in the world. I hope the other guys don't even got to tell everybody the same thing.
Well, you could tell the other guy that next Monday.
Okay.
Right? But right now, this is my time.
All right. I appreciate you joining, and I like to thank everyone who was able to join us on tonight. Be back on here next Monday night at 7 p.m. same time, and we're looking forward to hearing some more amazing stories about wrongful conviction. Thank you.
Thank you, my sister. Have a great one.
All right. I'm just closing out everything.